A big welcome to my YouTube channel today. Thank you so much to you all, the returning subscribers, and for all of you new subscribers, I thank you. As you all know, on this platform we do talk about life in the diaspora, life abroad, life in the UK to be precise, because that's where I am, and I moved to the UK 2 years ago. So today, guys, I'm going to talk about I think 4 or 5 things that I did, and I ended up with 3 certificates of sponsorships. So I don't know if it's for you, but these are some of the things that I did and ended up with 3 companies wanting me and wanting to offer me sponsorship to move from Zimbabwe to the UK. So one of the things that I do always say and that I do always prioritize and really feel are quite essential if you're going to do some of these things is to be so organized in terms of your paperwork, organized in terms of all the checklists. I mean, there is requirements, and there's 2 requirements that I want to talk about. There is requirements for the Home Office for when you apply for your visa, and there is requirements for when you are applying to a company or to an organization. And these are the things that can increase your chances of being picked or of being sponsored by a company. So what I did, the first thing that I did once I had made up my mind to say I want to move abroad, I want to move abroad as a carer, I want to move to the UK as a carer, I then knew there were things that I needed to do. I knew one of the first things that would give me confidence was to make sure I've got a passport. I mean, if you're from Zimbabwe, you definitely know how hard it is for you to get a passport. So I made sure I had actually renewed my passport. So if you do have a passport, just make sure your passport has got maybe 6 months left within your passport until expiry. Those are Home Office requirements. And I mean, even as you continue to apply, as you continue to reach out to organizations and say, okay, I want to move, I want to work for you, they will ask if you have got ready travel documents. So one of the first things that I did was to get myself a passport. I think I'll make another video whereby I'll talk about the cost, but today I just want to focus on the things that I did. So after having got my passport, I knew definitely, okay, I'm already, into it. I'm already on this journey. The only thing that's left is for me to succeed. I mean, part and parcel of the things that I do talk about, to those that I do talk about a lot, is belief is very important. So once I had my passport, I knew I was serious about it. I knew I could do it. So the second thing that I knew I had to do, again, this is part and parcel of the Home Office requirements, was I needed an English proficiency test. What do I mean by English proficiency test? This is your IELTS, this could be your OET, this could be your TOEFL, but for me, I did IELTS. So I knew I had to write my English proficiency, and I'm a perfectionist, guys, forgive me, but I knew I had to give it my all. So I gave myself time for me to practice, because I knew money wasn't on my side, so I knew I had to succeed the first time around. Some of you would ask, how long did it take for you to practice for your English proficiency? I would say I gave myself like nearly 2 months for me to practice, for me to do everything, because I knew the score that I wanted. But if somebody is to ask me whether or not they will pass if they do it in 3 weeks, I would say yes, you can. So depending on how good you are, because this English proficiency test, I think I will make a video on it, on the structure, the things to expect. But for me, I gave myself 2 months to practice and to make myself ready for the exam. But what I did is I had to pay for the exam. So I found a date that was 2 months away. So one of the things, if you're on this journey, if you're wanting to write your English proficiency, I would suggest that if you've got the money that is ready, just book for your English test, but you can pick dates that are far ahead. Then that way you would know, okay, I've already paid for this exam. So the only thing that is left for me is for me to succeed, is for me to do well in it. So that's what I did. And I actually booked a date, or a day that was 2 months ahead. And that really worked so well for me. So there are 2 types of English proficiency when it comes to IELTS. I'll talk about IELTS because that's the one that I'm quite well versed with. So for me, there was IELTS General UKVI or IELTS Academic UKVI. So part and parcel of the things that I had to do was to make sure I booked the right one, because there's also just IELTS General or just IELTS UKVI. So you need to get it right. Otherwise, if you are wanting to come to the UK, it has to have a UKVI at the end. So what I did was I picked the IELTS UKVI, IELTS Academic UKVI. Why that? For me, it didn't matter whether I write general or I write academic, but the dates round about the time I came, I mean, if you've watched my previous videos, you know I came to the UK 2 years ago. At that time, this was at the peak of people migrating or relocating to the UK as caregivers. So I could not find dates anywhere for IELTS general. That's why I ended up having to book for IELTS academic. So there's really not much of a difference. I will delve into that when I do a video specifically for English proficiency. So I knew in 2 months I had to write, and so that was sorted, and I began to start practicing, to start you know, just all the preparation. You know, with any exam you got to prepare. One of the things that I did also in preparation was, I knew part and parcel of the requirements was I needed to have my TB test done. If you do a TB test, this expires in 6 months. So I knew this would be the last thing that I do when I know everything is set, when I know I'm nearly towards maybe starting serious applications. One of the things that I told myself, I'm not saying do that, but that's what I did. I didn't start off by applying or coming up with a fancy CV. I knew I wanted to apply when I had everything in place. So I delayed to get my police clearance. I delayed to get my TB test done because these things do expire in 6 months. So if you're on this journey, if you're doing some of these things, I would suggest that you do not do your police clearance or your TB test until you know now you're ready for serious application, and you give yourself 6 months to just be seriously applying so that you get sponsorship. Because if you don't do that, then your TB test can expire, your police clearance can expire, and then you have to redo these things once more. And obviously for you to do those things, we are talking about money. So for me, one of the things that I did as well was I had to start doing my Red Cross. For those of you that have been following my journey, for those of you that have watched my previous videos, you know when I was in Zimbabwe, I used to do engineering. I was into engineering, and I had to move from engineering into care. So in as much as I had previous care experience, but I didn't have any paperwork to show for it. And like I told you, I'm just somebody who loves to be so organized, who loves to, if somebody asks or questions my credentials, I just love to show paperwork. So I enrolled with Red Cross, and a big shout out to my mentor. She did a good job with that one. So I registered with Red Cross. Of course, Red Cross, if you're doing your care certificate with Red Cross, there's 3 stages to it. And these do not just happen all at once, because after each and every stage there's exams to be written, and then there's a bit of a break where you're actually like participating in one-to-one or in-class training. So for my Red Cross, I would say for my care certificate, it took me nearly I think 1.5 months to 2 months for me to complete the whole syllabus. So this whole syllabus, it involved doing the theory part and the practical part. A big shout out to my mentor, because she did a good job with that one. So in that meantime, whilst I was pushing my documentation, I was also running parallel. I was doing my Red Cross training, my care certificate training. So some of you would ask, like, Flo, how long would you say it took you? For me to prepare all documentation and stuff, I think it took me nearly, I think about 6 months for me to like gather all the paperwork together. So it took me 8 months really to say I had all my paperwork in one place. So I did my Red Cross training, but I knew well, in Zimbabwe, I don't know in other countries, I don't know where you are watching me from or where you are beginning your journey at. But in Zimbabwe, after your training, you had to do what they call attachment, whereby you work in a hospital and then you get your practical experience before you can acquire your certificate. So after I had done my 1.5 months to 2 months of Red Cross training, I had to find somewhere where I had to do attachment so that I can actually get signed off and get my certification. So for those of you that would want to know, I think I would say I seriously started this journey around about in July of 2021, and by January 2022 I had actually managed to get all of my documentation in one place. I had now been signed off for my care certificate, and I now had all my Red Cross certificates. What is it then that I began to do after that landed me all the 3 COSs that I had? Obviously, when I had all my paperwork in one place, I obviously had to do my CV from scratch. I did it myself, and I would encourage anybody who would want to come up with a CV to say, do that CV yourself. Why? You begin to relate, you begin to say things that you know. Unlike somebody who would say, I want to find somebody that can actually come up with a CV for me, I would say, do your CV in person, do your CV on your own. That way you're actually putting down things that you know resonates with you, people, things that you know you believe in, things that you know even if you are asked, they're at your fingertips. So that's what I did. I did my CV on my own. I did my my cover letter. I think I'll do a separate video on my cover letter and my CV as well, just for you guys. So after I had done my CV on my own, I had my paperwork in place, I started to apply. Guys, I don't want to lie to you. If you're overseas and you're trying to apply to for jobs abroad, it's hard work. Why do I say it's hard work? It's not like these companies are just recruiting from one country. Well, I'm from Zimbabwe, as you all know, so it's not like they were recruiting specifically from Zimbabwe. They were recruiting from the world over, and we only found out when we got here to say, wow, people have been trickling in, people have been flowing into the country from all over, from the Philippines, from India, from Pakistan, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, everywhere. So obviously your CV had to be competitive. Obviously your cover letter had to be very good for you to land just an interview with an employer. So what is it that I was doing differently that landed me that job? I began to apply. I remember that time, you know, I love people that are in communities or in WhatsApp groups. When you want to relocate, associate yourself with people who are on the same journey as you. Why do I say that? It's because a lot of people do share links. A lot of people do share a lot of information on which companies are recruiting. So I literally had a book with me that I had where there were email addresses, where there were websites for companies that were actively recruiting at that time. And what was my strategy? A lot of people do ask me like, Flo, so what was your strategy? Because it's so hard to get a COS. But at that time, my strategy was every single day, I would make sure I've pushed between 50 to 100 applications. That's how badly I wanted this journey to succeed. That's how badly I wanted this to work out for me. So depending on how hungry you are, depending on how much you want it, I love to say this, to say, I'm not saying the UK is everything. I'm not saying the diaspora is everything. But for us, for some of you who is like us, you know, definitely you want it to work. You know, definitely your life depends on it. So each and every single day, I would push 50 to 100 applications. And guys, I don't want to lie to you and say it was all rosy, because every day you would be checking your emails and then you get like 10, 15 regrets. But that didn't stop me. This goes on to one of the things that I love to say, the diaspora journey is a patience journey, it's a determination journey, it's a courage journey, it's a risk journey. You got to be somebody who is determined, you got to be somebody who is focused, you got to be somebody who is, you know, hardworking. Because it wasn't easy, because I was working, I've got a family, I've got children. And still I had to like give my all into applying, into pushing out emails each and every day. I think I would say I seriously, rigorously applied for nearly, I would say a month and a half. So it was a month and a half of pushing emails, of going on websites, of writing applications day in, day out. And that's when I got my first response, my first invite to an interview. So that made me believe this was just, I do remember that so well, and I always talk to my husband about it to say, do you remember that day when that email came? And when that invite came, I knew in that interview I had to give my all. Guys, I'll do another video where I'll talk about interview tips, where I'll talk about how I prepared for that interview. But I knew there and then that this was my chance, and I do believe in people that take chances, people that do their best when a chance or an opportunity is presented before them. So I had that invite, but then I didn't stop applying. I kept on applying. For me, it was a case of this is just an invite to an interview. This is not a certificate of sponsorship. This is not a job offer. This is not a contract. It's an invite to an interview where I need to go and perform, where I need to go and present myself and state my case. And then someone else has to decide whether or not I've done well and offer me a job. So I kept on applying. I knew it was important, so I kept on applying. I didn't stop. So I think after that one, within that same month, within 4 to 6 weeks, I had 3 invites to interviews. And by the time I went for my second, when I got my second invite, I had already attended an interview with the first company that had invited me. When it comes to interviews, and I'm that person who gives their all. I'm that person who would prepare as if my life depends on it. I mean, well, in this case, my life really depended on it. You know, I really so badly wanted to move to the UK, and I knew this was the opportunity I needed. So by the time I think they responded, within a week they'd responded to say, okay, would like to offer you a job, and they sent me a contract. But that did not stop me. Why? Because what I needed was an organization or a company that would give me a certificate of sponsorship. Why am I saying this? It's to speak to somebody who, you know, a lot of people do reach out to me and say, it's been a month, I did an interview, they said I was successful, but the COS hasn't come. So I know how these things work, and I've experienced it. So I didn't stop applying. I didn't stop preparing for the next interview, for the interview after. I attended the second interview. I do remember that so well, because this was with a care home. The first one was a domiciliary care company, and the second one was a care home. But the third interview that I had, again, this was another domiciliary company, and this is the company that I had to come with eventually. Guys, it took me getting 3 offers for my husband to say, Flo, I think it's about time you stop applying anymore and we focus on these 3 companies. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this just to, you know, to say it's always important to have options. It's always important to push until the last day. It's always important for you to push yourself, and then you've got options, because at the end of the day, I had to choose who I wanted to go with. The 3 of them all sent me contracts, and I had to look at them, and I had to look at, you know, location, things like that. I will do a separate video on how I chose a company to come with, the things that I would say you consider these things if you're to come. I'll just mainly share my experiences and how I came to choose the company that I came with. So after waiting, this is like nearly the whole interviews thing, contracts coming and deciding. This nearly took me, I think, about 2 months. 2 months of invites, attending to interviews, waiting for responses, getting responses. So 2 months of that. But for me, that was hope. For me, that was a sign to say, okay, you're 1 leg in. You're nearly there. Just push a bit more. You're nearly there. So for me, eventually, I had to decide which company I was going to, and I picked the domiciliary company that I came with. So after choosing what is it that I did, obviously I signed a contract with them and I sent it back to them. But what did I do with the other companies? I'm always saying, show grace, show courtesy, show kindness in whatever that you do. Because you just never know when you need those people. You just never know when you may need, you know, to move to those companies. And at the back of my head, I knew I had to handle this whole situation so well. I had to handle this whole situation professionally. So what did I end up doing? I ended up having to write emails to these companies. I think I'll search in my emails, my old emails, and see if I still have copies of those emails, and then I'll share with you, just to show you, to say the things that I do say here. This is my journey. These are some of the things that I did in person. And why I love to say I did that is because there's always a lesson behind it. For me, I was like, I just never know when I'll need these people. I may go to the UK with this company, and then I end up having to move to a certain area where that company that interviewed me and they liked me and they gave me an offer might be. And I may need to want and work for that organization. So what did I do? I wrote emails apologizing, and also letting them know that I'd actually got an offer from elsewhere, and I decided at this point in time to go with them, and they could go ahead and decide to go with someone else. For me, that was everything. For me, I had done everything. I had notified them, because I knew these organizations, when they do give you an offer, they're relying on you, they're waiting for you. So it's always important for you to notify them and let them know, to say, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm no longer coming with you, or I'm so sorry, I'm no longer pursuing this. So guys, this is how I prepared. This is how I did everything that I had to do. These are some of the things that I did for me to land these certificate of sponsorships, for me to end up in the UK, guys. So until next time, it's bye from now. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you so much for all the things that you continue to do with us. Thank you so much for supporting us. Continue to subscribe, like, and share our videos. Thank you.